you doing? This is at our new time, and hopefully some people will remember we're doing it an hour earlier this week to go along with some requests we had. And we'll give it a try a few weeks and see if it works. This is Pesach Sherbo from Sfat, Israel. We have Terry Hayes from
Tennessee.
Tennessee, okay. I always want to say Kentucky. I don't know why. Whiskey, that's why. Kentucky whiskey.
Well, you're not completely wrong because I was born in Kentucky.
Yeah, I know. That's what's got me confused. That's okay. Troy's here with us right now. Good to see you, Troy. And welcome to another open meeting for the Noachides. And we're hoping that more and more Noachides will come along and join in with us. But we know that when we record them, then if people are busy, they can come back and watch whenever they want. So that's okay too. Just let us know, keep in touch of what's going on. Send us questions. Last week we talked about faith. This week I want to talk about what do I do? All these holidays I'm giving up, and all these holidays, and what's going on, and what should I do, and what shouldn't I follow, and what should I follow? I want to say to everybody that you need to understand something in the Hebraic Jewish way of thinking. As long as you are following Torah, it doesn't make any difference whether you do this or do that. Example, there are people out there saying Noahide shouldn't do anything, forget it, don't light candles on Friday evening, don't mimic what the Jews are doing or anything like that. Now, when it comes to wearing things and doing things that are specific to being Jewish, I would agree on that. But you want to light candles on Friday night, it's okay. And if you want to make up your own kind of little blessing, or there are places out there where you can get blessings that are not that God commanded me to do it because I'm a Jew. You're allowed to do things without creating them like, oh my goodness, I didn't light my candles Friday night, I sinned or something. Just, if you want to give a present to Hashem, he accepts. It's voluntary, you can do it, you cannot do it, either way is right. So if somebody tells you, no, you can't do that, then you got, in your heart, you got to understand, Torah says that anybody that wants to bring a sacrifice to Hashem can do it, even idol worshipers. Yes, at the temple, they were restricted to the kind of sacrifice they could bring, but the idol worshipers could only bring a fowl, the doves and so forth. But anybody that wasn't an idol worshiper, even if they weren't Jewish, could bring bulls and sheep and rams and whatever they want and get them sacrificed to Hashem in the same exact procedure that the Kohanim did with everybody else. And the person would say the same verses that a Jew would say, because it's not like, it wouldn't say, well, because I'm Jewish, I'm doing this. Because I'm Israel, I'm doing this. That's not why it was. It was you're a direct connection to Hashem, to God. So you get people that will tell you, don't do anything. And then there are people that will tell you, you have to do this, and you have to do that, and you have to do the other thing. And you got to walk a line here. As a Jewish person, I have 3 or 4 different rabbis I go to ask questions for clarification on Torah law. The reason is I go to the person who's the expert in that particular area of Torah law that I need the decision on. I'm going to give you an example. When I first came to Sfat and we were making our home kosher, I was recommended to a guy, and I realized I didn't quite get to the guy, I got to his son, but here's what happened. It was about a set of China dishes. You can't make them kosher. You can't go through the ritual that in the boiling water and all that, because China sucks in whatever was put on the plate. And he just said, throw them all away. I said, wait a minute, I got 3 big sets of dishes here. I don't want to just throw them away. So I put them and packed them in boxes, put them away, went and bought a whole new set, did the what we call tevilah. In other words, you have to dunk them in water and do a little ritual. And they sit and sit and sit. And one day I'm in a conversation with somebody about something else. And he says, I had a bunch of dishes that I just put up in a closet that were used in an improper way, and I just didn't feel like throwing them away. And 3 years later, I happened to ask a rabbi about it. He says, "Oh, you haven't used them in 3 years?" He says, "Then don't worry about it. Just clean them, do the little ceremony you do by dunking them in the mikveh water, say your blessing, and take them home and use them. Use them for milk, use them for meat, whatever you want." And so, wait a minute, I had a rabbi tell me throw all my stuff away, which I didn't do. I just packed it in boxes because that was a lot of money to throw away. So 3 years later, matter of fact, some of them had been in 5 years in boxes. And I took them out. I checked with a couple of other rabbis just to make sure, my local rabbi here, and I talked to a guy who is an expert in this type of thing. Everybody told me the same thing. Yeah, you can use them. So now I had the first guy tell me throw them away. So it depends on the person's knowledge at the time when you ask the question. Now, we have some really great books that are written to help Noahides. You have the Divine Code, Volume 3. You have 7 Gates of Knowledge. Is that what it's called? 7 Gates of Knowledge. You have quite a few books that are written to help, and you read them. And I read all the Jewish books about the Jewish laws and the 613 and all the things we have to go through. And you know what I find all in common is that there's discussions in those books. In other words, they'll tell me, yes, you have to do it this way. But in a more lenient way, you do it this way, and some other people think you do it that way. So now you're left with 3 choices. What do you want to do? God gave us free choice. So whatever you do, and if you're not Jewish, whatever you do, you have to ask yourself one question. Was this commanded only for the Jews? Why am I doing this? If it was commanded only for the Jews, then you know you shouldn't do it because you're not Jewish. If you want to do it, hey, pick up, we call it a yoke. The 613 is a yoke, like an oxen has a yoke on there, and it can only go certain ways and can't move anything else but that, or continue in the direction you're going and have a little more freedom and still be totally relaxed that you're within the plan that God has set up for the world. And it's okay. Now let's talk about Passover that's coming up, and about eating matzah and about celebrating a Passover meal. This holiday is a celebration of freedom for the Jews when they came out of Egypt. And God commands the Jews to teach it to their sons throughout the generations and to celebrate it throughout the generations as if it happened to you. In other words, when I sit my kids down at the table, I'm telling a story like it happened to me in my generation. It's not ancient history. It happened to me. Why do we do this? Mitzrayim, the word Mitzrayim is a country, Egypt, but it also means to choke or to hold back or to divide. Every single one of us, every human being has their own Egypts in their lives that they have to get through and get over and escape from, whatever it is. So it's an example of how to, and I used to teach my kids, how you're going to get through life if you get stuck behind one of these screens or you have this problem that you have to get through. You have to go forward, and the only way you can go forward is by having Hashem lead you through it, through the sea, to get to the other side, to get freedom. Right now, there's a whole lot of people in the world having a huge problem getting out of a particular Mitzrayim. And they're going through that sea, and they're getting they get on the other side and say, wow, I'm free. And all of a sudden, the Amalekites are attacking them from behind. And they're saying, wait a minute, you did wrong, come back, you can't leave, what's going to happen to you? And give you a whole bunch of hassle and even make you feel bad as far as relationships go, just to get you back into that Egypt. Let me tell you a quick story. I grew up on Chesapeake Bay, or very close to it. And I used to go crabbing a lot. And we used to pull the crabs up and put them in bushel baskets. And I wasn't kosher then, no, I was a Reformed Jew. And you put the first crab you put at the bottom of the bushel starts trying to claw its way back up with its pincers. It can't get very far, up a little bit and slides down. As you put more and more crabs on top, they crawl on top of each other, push each other down, and start to grab the top. The most amazing thing happens when you get the level up where one of them can get its claw over the top so it can start to pull itself up. The crabs behind it grab it and pull it back down. It's just amazing to watch. It's a natural phenomenon there. And you throw a crab in, and it's on top, and it'll pinch it on the top, try to pull itself up, and somebody from behind is going to grab its rear fins, maybe 2 or 3 of them, and they'll pull on it, and it'll pull them back down. You get to a certain point where you have to put a lid on it because you're so high up, they're all starting to crawl out. The point is, nature has the instinct when someone goes forward to pull them back. So when you ask a question in a group, or you go to a particular rabbi and ask a question, know that the answer is going to come through the particular way that he is walking, in the particular way that he studied. And that's okay. The one thing you really can't do is shop around. In other words, if one tells you, no, don't do anything, and the other one tells you, yeah, we can do this or do that, and then you pick between the two, you're really not supposed to do that. At least we aren't supposed to do that. We take the answer, we've got the answer, and we're not shopping around for another answer that'll make it easier for us. But the important thing here is know who you're asking the question of. Is it a person that is expert in what you want to know the answer to? And the only way you can know that is to get some history of the person. And you can do that usually by asking them questions. There are a lot of rabbis out there who have started because people have been coming to them. They've started the way they understand the Noachide should be taught, or doing it their way. But some of them haven't learned more revelation that has been done, not revelation, but more history that has come into play. So that when one rabbi says, no, you got to do it exactly this way and that, this and this, how much do you have to know not to kill somebody, not to steal, not to be unfaithful? Everybody knows that. What people don't know is underneath it, what are the subcategories there? Murder can be murdering a person's reputation as well as murdering the person. So there's some fine things that go there. But hello, Veronica.
Hello, how are you all? Are we starting like, oh, that's right. I totally forgot. I am so sorry. I forgot we were doing it at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh
Hey, you suggested it. No, I'm just kidding.
That's okay. You're going to have to watch the video to get the first 10 or 15 minutes, but we're essentially discussing the question here of what do I do, what holidays, how should I do things? And the simple of the answer is some rabbis are going to say this way and some rabbis are going to say that way. And the one that says that way is going to say that guy's wrong. And the one that says do it this way is going to say that guy's wrong. And I was just explaining that the rabbis specifically, they teach it in the way they see it from the teachings that they have had. And most of them, the teachings they have had are just strictly Jewish Hebraic teachings. I'm a guy that's been there, done that, okay? I've been through all the different stuff. I've studied Christianity a whole lot of years. I made a few mistakes along the way. I came back to being Jewish and totally Jewish. I never stopped being Jewish, but I came back to following God's Torah. And so I've seen both sides of the fence. I've also seen the Hebraic, the Jewish side, where when you ask a question, you get 3 different answers. And one of the things that we learn through our, in our Western way of thinking, and I grew up this way, so I know exactly, we're critical of everything. Who said? Who said? On whose authority? Show me where it says. And wait a minute, that's not what I think. We're very critical like that. In the Jewish way of thinking, in the Torah way of thinking, there's more than one right way to do things. This morning, I get a daily Torah lesson. In the morning, we have morning blessings, we say, right after we get up. The question was, do I have to stand to do these blessings? The answer was yes, you have to stand to do the blessings. But they're made to be said as you get up or you're getting out of bed or whatever. So if you're laying down or sitting down, it's okay to do them that way too. And it's the custom of like Ashkenazis to stand up and say it. It's the custom of Sephardi to say it as they're getting out of bed. Both ways are right. You just say, but you're saying the blessing. We discussed a few minutes ago about candles on Friday night for Shabbat. If you want to honor God in the day he rested, and you want to light candles on Friday night, it's fine after dark. But if you don't want to, it's okay too. When it comes to holidays like Passover, the Passover has some very specific rules in it in the Torah, and a little bit further on, where the sages, the Talmud and the Gemara, they discuss it. But Talmud, it is a celebration of God leading us through the Red Sea and getting us out of Egypt. And I just said before you came in, Egypt signifies anything that each of us goes through. We all have our Egypts in our lives. We have something we have to go through or we're going through in our lives. So God was going to help us get through that Egypt in some way. So it's almost the same as a Passover. When I say Egypt, I mean really serious things that we're trying. Most of you guys who are listening to this video, you've already been through one humongous Egypt. And that's where you were before. And you've come through the Red Sea. God's standing there with you, and he's leading you forward.
Right.
You want to say something, Terry?
Oh, no. I was just listening to you, but I was looking at something as well.
No, I thought somebody said all right. So anyway, what I'm saying is that there is no, the wrong way is to say prayers, to say God commanded me or God led me out. God led Israel out of Egypt back then when he split the sea, but he didn't lead all mankind through. So that would be now celebrate with Israel. That's fine to do. You want to eat matzah? That's okay. I don't eat it. I love matzah. I don't eat it all year long because I want it to be special on Passover. But when it even comes to that, there's some really, really difficult rules. Like it's not supposed to get wet at all and things like that. And some people are very strict about it. Other people not so strict. And the point is, as long as you're serving Hashem and what you do doesn't violate Torah, then you're okay. Now, how do I know if it's violating Torah? You have to ask somebody that knows what they're talking about. And we talked about an expert. You need an expert in whatever you want to know about. In this case, you guys would be asked, you want somebody that's going to be more or less an expert on what do I do? I've come out of Avodah, I've come away, I've been through my Egypt. Now, how do I conduct myself further on? What do I do? What can I do? What can't I do? And then you have those that want to eat kosher. That's okay. You can eat kosher. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't want to eat kosher? Don't. You want to be a vegan? Be a vegan. You want anything is okay. As long as you know that, okay, if I go to somebody's house and he puts some barbecue ribs in front of me, it's okay. Spare ribs, it's okay for me to eat them. I'm not sinning. For me, I can't do that. I wish I could, but I can't do that. A little story. When my daughter used to live in Ohio, as you come up the road to turn into her neighborhood, there was a little shack on the side of the road. You could always smell it half a mile away. It said the best barbecue ribs in the whole world, right on the top of it. And as soon as I could smell it, my mouth would start watering for those barbecue ribs. I love barbecue ribs, but since I came back to follow the way of Torah, I can't eat them. I can't even say, okay, give me a break, give me a break. And every time I would go by there, my mouth would just with water. There's a joke about, this is back in the time of the czars in Russia, where there was an old Jewish guy on the train, and he looked Jewish, like I do. And one of the Cossacks came up to him with a sandwich. He says, here, take a bite of this sandwich. It's a ham sandwich. I'm ordering you to take a bite of this sandwich. The guy says, I can't do that. I can't eat it. He said, God will not let me eat it. This went back and forth 2 or 3 times, and the Cossack put a gun up to the guy's head and said, okay, eat it or I'm going to pull the trigger. Now, if a Jew is alone by himself and he's being forced to do something, he can take a choice between life and death. If he's in front of 10 other Jews, he has no choice. He couldn't eat it. So this little Jewish guy says, okay, give me the sandwich. He takes a big bite out of it, chews it and swallows it. And the Cossack put his gun back in his holster and took the sandwich. And the Jew guy says, hey, wait a minute, come back here a minute. The Cossack came back. He says, put your gun back to my head and let me give you the sandwich back. Because he liked the taste of it, but he couldn't eat it unless the gun was in his head. So but you guys, you have free choice. Do what you want, and it's okay. Just like some people eat fried food today and some people don't. Some people eat dairy and some people don't. It's okay. It's not as complicated as people want to make it out to be.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's one of the areas that I'm still growing in, and it's an area I struggle with. Currently, in my understanding of the Noachide laws, and how do I put this? I'm going to put it the way I understand it. I'm not permitted to observe a commandment outside of the Noachide, even though I'm permitted to do it. I'm not permitted to do it for spiritual reasons. Does that make sense? Like, since we're talking about kosher.
Yeah.
Or ham, let's just say ham.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm permitted to eat a ham sandwich, but if I choose to eat kosher because God gave kosher commandments, then that is not correct. You see
You're
what I'm
correct.
saying?
That's not correct. You're correct. That is not correct.
Here's, like I studied for conversion, so I'm practically Jewish. Here's my problem in observing any of the holidays. Even though I understand acknowledgement versus observance, I have an intellectual understanding. But for me personally, I don't understand how someone can observe a commandment without it being tied to its spiritual source, which would make it not kosher for the non-Jew, if I'm using my word correctly.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
And so I personally struggle. That's why I hold back. I don't do anything. I'm actually researching a topic right now because sometimes my mind works weird. There are times, because I grew up in a Christian church that ate, quote, clean meat, so we didn't eat pork and all that stuff. But there are times, and then I went from that and other things and messianic and studying for conversion, so kosher was a big issue in my whole life. And so today, I will purposely eat a piece of pepperoni pizza to show that I'm permitted to do that without it being a sin. Because in my past life, it was always a sin, even as a non-Jew. So I've got some areas, a couple of areas in the Torah that God instructs Israel not to do for certain reasons. And I've always believed that, I shouldn't do this. But now that I'm understanding the Torah laws, if I continue not to do that for that reason, then that's wrong. And it's almost one of those things like, maybe I just need to go out and do this to show myself that it's not a sin. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because you're changing your way of thinking. Yes.
And so the whole holiday thing has got me. I don't understand a Gentile's reason for wanting to observe the holidays. I cannot disconnect them from their spiritual source. If I observe something, it's because God said to do this, but then he didn't say for me to do this. And so what reward is in doing something? To me, there's more reward in learning to do the 7 laws more correctly, because I feel like there's so many Gentiles out there wanting to keep kosher, keep holidays, and they're going over here and they're like my dishonesty things that I've been posting or things. I feel like they're going over here wanting to do this, but they're not learning the details of the 7 laws and to perfect those areas before they jump into this bed. That's just me.
Well, no, actually, it's a good point, and there's a reason for it. Don't forget that the Gentiles are leaving other holidays that were created through the religion they used to belong to, and they feel like they're losing something. But what they don't realize, they're actually gaining a huge plus from God by leaving the pagan stuff behind.
Yes, that's kind of what you just said, and with my own personal thoughts is what brought me to what I just wrote in my little bit thing about we have the obligation to live and practice divine humanity.
Right, exactly.
To me, when you told me that, months ago, that we're not losing, we're gaining, it really gave my mind, I'm like, an opportunity to look at what I'm gaining through the 7 laws, not what I'm losing. And exactly. that changed my life. I mean, I look at everything I get, I'm gaining divine humanity.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
What can I do to add to that?
I'm going to take a little detour into kashrut right now. People don't eat various things for different reasons. Vegans, they won't eat eggs and they won't eat anything from a cow, milk or butter and all that kind of stuff. Vegetarians will eat that stuff. They won't eat meat. Everybody has their reasons. I want to throw something at you about all the things that God said not to eat that are in the Bible. You want a good reason not to eat them? Every single one of them is a scavenger. It either eats rotten meat, something. It's cleaning up something. they're not just eating like grass and oats and natural stuff. They're eating other animals, and they're come across a dead animal, they eat it. They're the garbage collectors of the world. Any fish without scales is a bottom feeder. It eats all the junk that the other fish throw on the bottom. Any of the birds that we're told not to eat are birds that are scavengers, and they eat things that are scavengers. So let's think about this a minute. I used to love shrimp. I used to love clams. I used to love a raw bar. I used to love all this stuff. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, shrimp, they're cleaners of the ocean. That's what they were created to do. They eat the stuff that's left over or comes out of other fish. Clams are the same way. They clean the sand and clean everything. Eagles, osprey, all these others, they're garbage collectors. They clean up all the garbage on Earth. Imagine how many rotting carcasses they'd be around on Earth if we didn't have cleaners. So you are what you eat. Do I want to eat something that spent its life cleaning the earth and taking in the dregs of everything? Now they recycle it and make it better, and that's why they're created. But do I want to eat part of their flesh that was actually made by that was done by that? No.
But let me ask you this question, because I have gone back and I've looked at that. If we go back to the beginning, like we were discussing before we started recording, the Torah is a blueprint. And I know the pages are on pages. But when God created all those animals, he knew what he created them before he written the Torah, and before he told Noah, everything that moves on the earth is food for you. So he knew that before he told him that. Now I look at it as, now there's a moderation in everything. You can't just eat nothing but catfish or pork. It's not going to be good for you. If you overeat it, it's not going to be good for you. But that could be anything. If you eat too many green beans, you're going to get sick, So, but I look at the fact, God knew these were scavengers before he told Noah, hey, this is food for you. And even Rabbi Singer brought out a point in one of his videos. He knows a man on one of the islands that if God commanded him to eat kosher, he would starve to death, because there's no kosher animals other than very few fruits and vegetables that he could eat to sustain his life.
Oh, God never commanded anybody to starve to death.
Huh?
God never commanded anybody to starve to death. If I'm somewhere and the only thing I can eat is pig, I'm going to eat it, and it's going to be okay with God. Yeah.
But still, I guess for me, it's just like, I know that a lot of that stuff is the scavengers, but Hashem knew that before he told Noah.
Let me give you one. Let's go one point deeper than that. What did God tell Adam in the Garden of Eden? He said, you can eat from every tree, you can eat from any wildlife in the garden, right? What was growing in that garden? There were many poisonous things that were growing in there. Hemlock, things that would kill you if you ate them. So how did Adam decide what not to eat and what yes to eat and what no to eat? We don't know, unless God just put that knowledge in his head, or he could have gotten it by watching what animals eat and survived. And so, I guess I can eat that, I'm not going to die. I guess I can eat that, it's not poison for me. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, in a general term, God told man, you can eat anything that grows. It's all yours. The meat thing didn't come until after the flood.
The flood.
So you can ask the same question about, wait a minute, I can eat anything. I can eat any vegetable or any plant or any berry or anything. I can eat anything. I said, yeah, whatever you want. So but those poisonous ones were also there, just like the scavengers were there. Everything has its purpose. Even the poisons have purposes. We've used them in medical science. We've used them in a whole bunch of different other ways. And of course, people have used it for evil also. So it's up to us to sort things out a little bit. You know, in the morning prayer, we say at least twice, Hashem rules over all the gods of earth. He rules over the heavens, and he gave us the earth. And he gave it to us with certain rules about it. The basic rule was take care of it, guard it, which we haven't done, just like a lot of Jews don't do with the Sabbath, and many Noachides, many people who are not Jewish don't bother keeping the Sabbath in a way or remembering it, that it was God's day of rest. But we learn how to do those things as we go along. The main thing about coming into the full idea of what a Noahide is knowing that there's not one right way to do things. And as long as you're not doing it because you think that God commanded you to do it, you know, think about this. You're in the Army, Marines, Air Force, whatever it is, and someone gets a command from their superior officer to go do something, you overhear it, and you decide you're going to do it too, and you go and do it. That superior officer comes to you and says, I didn't give you an order to do that. Why did you do that? Well, I just volunteered. I heard you wanted it done. I knew it would please you if it was done. And he looks at him and says, what makes you think it would please me if you did it? I gave an order to someone very specific to go do it. I didn't give the order to you. So now how is this sergeant, corporal, general, how is he going to look at you when you just say, oh, you know, I heard him say it to somebody else, I'm going to go do it because I know that he wants that done. It's going to make me look good in his eyes. It's going to make me feel good because I did it for him. What's this all about? It's all about me. It's not about what the general wanted or the sergeant wanted. It's about what you wanted. And this is the way we learn to think of things. When on Shabbat, if I flip a light switch because I want more light where I am, I'm not allowed to do that. I want more light so I can maybe read my prayers better. Hey, we were in Shul last week at Mincha, which is afternoon prayer. It was raining real hard and poof, all the lights went out. Circuit breaker trips. We weren't allowed to go fix it. So we moved everything out in the hallway where some light was coming in so we could finish reading the Torah and finish what we were doing. We couldn't say, oh, it's easier for us. I'm going to flip the light switch. I know you said we're not supposed to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's okay. You want us to read the Torah. We can't do that. We can't make things about ourselves. It's easier for me to read it this way. I'm doing your commandment because you want me to read the Torah, going out of Shabbat and say certain prayers. And if I can't see it, how can I say it? Or if I can't read it.
You gave the answer right there. We're not supposed to make it about ourselves.
Right.
That to me is volume in observing the 7 laws and doing things outside the 7 laws. Why we would want to do something outside the 7 laws. Until we can do those things outside the 7 laws, because it's not, we've got to remove ourselves from it, from the reason why we want to do it.
It's called emptying the cup.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Veronica.
I think it was my understanding that the Torah was originally written for the Jewish people. Is that? Am I still right on that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
The Torah was written before anything else was ever created. God had the Torah. God had the Torah. That was his blueprint. That was his plan from beginning to end. This was in his possession. He had it. He had it before he said, let there be light. You were in it. You were in it. I was in it. Moses was in it. The plan for all creation was already there. The plan for all creation was already there. And for what each person was to do during their, hello, Thomas, good to see you.
How you doing?
Yeah, where would you start? We decided to start an hour earlier today. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Oh, shoot.
That's what I did.
That's right. You just made Veronica feel better. Anyway,
You can catch the
the question we got right now was that Veronica's understanding was the Torah was written for the Jewish people, and it's absolutely not true. The Torah was written for creation. Before there was a world, there was a Torah. Before there was creation, there was a Torah. Every single thing, everything is in the Torah from beginning to end. Everything that's happening, everything that happened, everything that will happen is already there. It's part of God's plan, and the Torah is his plan. We're supposed to help him with his plan. That was the reason we're created, to help him with his plan. He's got it going. He created the heavens and he created the earth. And he said, okay, I'll take care of the heavens. You guys take care of the earth. Here's how I want you to do it. And he gave us, first it came down through the Noachide laws, the 6 to Adam, then it came 7 to Noah. Noah taught him to his sons the 7 universal laws. That when this happened, there's a guy named Nimrod that kind of wanted to go against God here on earth, and he did his thing. But Noah's son Shem, and I think it was his grandson Ever, started the first, we call it a yeshiva, or school of teaching the laws. And actually, supposedly the cave where it all started is like a 20-minute walk from my house. It's the coolest place to go into. It's called the School of Shem and Ever. It's not all decorated stuff, it's just this huge cave. And according to our Jewish writings, Abraham spent time there when he escaped from Nimrod. He spent time there studying with Shem. Isaac studied there. Jacob studied there. And this is where all the consolidation in the teachings of the 7 laws came from. So, and this is all part of Torah. It's all part of God's plan that would unfold. What does God wait for in his plan? He knows somebody's going to come along and start doing it. Now we go back and say, well, wait a minute, if he knew all this, why was there a flood? Why do you have to wipe people out? What happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? It wasn't for they didn't follow the 7 laws or they didn't follow the 6 laws. God's number one law is be kind to each other and treat each other properly. We see it in the story of Nineveh. Nineveh was not about Jews, but a Jewish prophet was sent to them to tell them God's going to destroy you guys unless you stop being nasty to each other. And the king bought it. Shinharab, I think his name was. He bought it. He made an edict. We're all going to pray to the God of Israel and tell him we're not going to do that anymore. We're all going to be good to each other. There's going to be peace here. And that's how they pushed off God's judgment on Nineveh. If Sodom and Gomorrah had done it, and look, Abraham even argued for Sodom and Gomorrah, for God not to do that. But they couldn't be nice to each other. We read the story of the 2 angels that came there and what they wanted to do to them. They couldn't be nice to people. Just be nice to people. There wouldn't have been a flood. There wouldn't have been Sodom and Gomorrah. How do we know this? It was from the beginning. God put it that way. He made it that way. But he gives us control of what's going on down here on earth. Do what I want you to do. Read it, learn it, study it, get it from the teachers. And the basic of all laws, aside from, of course, If you do it, then you ascribe it because this is what God wants you to do, the Creator. Be nice to other people. That's it. Do you know that, and I can't remember right now, one of our sages, maybe it was the Baal Shem Tov, maybe Terry might know the name of the guy. A student came to him, non-Jewish. He said he wanted to learn Torah. Hillel, that's right. Okay. Hillel, the student said, I want to learn Torah. The student said, okay, I'm going to give you all of Torah standing on one foot. Now we'd say, hey, what are you, crazy? And he said, all of Torah is one thing. Don't do anything to anybody else that you wouldn't want done to you. It was a negative commandment. Do not do to anybody else what you don't want done to you. Now, if everybody operated that way, what kind of world would we live in? It's that simple. What a wonderful world we live in. How complicated is that? Is that complicated for anybody to understand? Hold on one second. Let me make this real quick. Hello? Ken. Alechem shalom. Shalom. אני לא יודע, עוד לא קיבלתי הודעה. כן, אבל יש ערבית אותו יום. אנחנו צריכים פשוט לעשות את זה מהר ולצאת, ואני חושב שזה יום שני. כן. אני חושב שכן, בעזרת השם, אוקיי? הלא דבר, אוקיי, ביי. Somebody just checked me if and what time evening prayers were going to be at our show right here, so I had to take that. Sorry. Anyway, is everybody kind of clicking what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
What is Torah? Torah is just don't do to anybody else what you don't want done to yourself. And when you interact with people, if you do that, you've done it all. You've done it all. Now, let's go back to the, pardon?
Like the whole thing when you say clicking, it's like it seems like the whole Torah, but what I can always see when reading it myself, my opinion, small opinion, is that it seems like it's between, what matters the most is between each other, each of us, made in the image of God, more than it seems to be our relationship with Him in a way. It all goes hand in hand.
That's true, but what you always have to remember when you do it because the Creator wants it. It's that simple. Every Noachide commandment, everything you do, you have to say, and this is, it's called conscious living. You're about to go do something. Would the Creator want me to do this or not? Your microphone's off, Veronica. Would the Creator want me to do this or not? Would I want somebody to do this to me or not? That means you're going down the street and you see somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire. Wouldn't it be nice if when you have a flat tire, somebody helped you out? Even if just to say, give you a little bit of pat on the back and say, yeah, boy, that's not so good. Let me give you a hand or something. How many times do we just drive by somebody? How many times do people get in line at the grocery store and the people get up there at the end and they're missing $5 or $10 to finish off their grocery bill and they start putting stuff back? How many people reach in their pocket and say, here? And it doesn't make any difference what they're buying. I was in a line at a grocery store one time, and I think it was in Mentor, Ohio. And I went in to buy a couple of things, and I'm behind this lady that's got a huge thing, came to maybe $150, $160. And the very last thing she put through were some magazines she wanted. And the lady at cashier said it's X amount of dollars. She was short $7. So I just handed her, I said, here, take $7, go home. And she thanked me and she left. And the cashier looked at me and said, you gave her $7 so she could buy some magazines and stuff? And I said, I know. That's not why I gave her $7. I gave her $7 because she was short $7 to pay you and take everything home she wanted. Here the cashier looked at her very critical. Well, she didn't have to buy those magazines if she doesn't have money. But those magazines, maybe for this woman, were some kind of something she needed to read, relax. Maybe she's got 10 kids at home. You don't know. You don't know why she'd find the magazines. If you ever seen a kid's face when he gets to the counter at a store and he's 25 cents short, 30 cents short, and the store owner says, well, put that back, put that back. I'll never let that happen. And I'll never let a person walk out of the grocery store because they're short some money. I had an experience happen to me, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, where I needed a piece to put something together in the house. I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't very expensive. It was 10, 15 shekel and about $4 or $5. And I went to the store and I went to the cash register. I reached in my pocket, no wallet. I just didn't find my wallet in my pocket that day before I left to go to work. And I don't go in that neighborhood every day. So I said, I'm sorry, I'll just put it back. And the guy behind me comes in and he says, what's the problem? I said, I came to get this piece so I can fix something at home. And, I don't come in the store all the time. So you guys, this is probably the first time I was in the store. And it's okay, thank you very much. He said, no, wait a minute, take the part. And next time your neighborhood, bring me the money. He was the owner of the store. It just amazed me that he did that. I made sure I went back the next day and paid him. But that's what we need from people. That's what and when we do that for people, that's our connection with God. That's where they see we're standing up and saying, this is my God. This is my creator. This is how he wants me to be. And you are showing, and you know what? When you do something like that, it makes an effect on people.
Yeah, that happened to my wife a couple of years ago. We were at one of the little grocery stores, the little lady behind us, and somehow the young cashier lady accidentally put that lady's stuff in my wife's bag. It was just a few things, and she didn't, there wasn't a bar there to separate the orders or the stuff. And so when the lady got to the cashier, she goes, where's my stuff? And then the young girl caught what she'd done. She put it in. So my wife, they go through the bags together and the woman picks out the stuff, 3 or 4 items that she had. And the girl says, hold on, let me void out everything. My wife says, no, don't worry about that. It's already paid for. And it was a little old lady. The lady about cried because my wife would do something like that. And then we've kind of adopted that as something that we do at times when we're in a grocery store, and especially with elderly people, they, here in the state, they're living on limited income.
Right.
So my wife will look around, and if she sees a little old man or woman behind her, she'll tell the cash register person, she says, put their stuff on my bill. And she just does that from time to time.
That's good. But that's doing exactly what the Torah is all about. You don't have to look at anything more than that. That is one of the greatest things you can do. Is what God wants you to do, is treat other people. It's been turned around as what do they say? Doing to others
as you want done unto you. Yeah, the golden rule.
Yeah, but actually it's a negative commandment. Do not do to others what you do not want done to you. It doesn't give you a chance to think about it. It doesn't give you a chance to criticize other people, what magazines they're buying or why they don't have the money or something like that. You're not criticizing the person. You're just saying, gee, I'd like somebody to do that for me.
I wish people could internalize that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people give it lip service, but it's not in their life. And our world would be such an amazing place if that was internalized.
That's why. That's the very reason why the Noachide commandments, 5 of them, are do nots. Because God wants anything that's a do not, God wants us all to think about before we do it. Now, on our website, because I don't like looking at negatives, I put them as positives, but the actual ones are negatives. Now, I think somebody said this last week. I'm going to say this again right now. According to the Zohar, one of the mystic books of, you've all heard of it, I'm sure. In Kabbalah, the crown of God, the Keter, it sits over everybody's head, but the one huge one that sits at the top of all creation, which is God's crown, has room for 620 jewels. 613 of the commandments of the Torah for the Jews, and the 7 commandments for the Torah commandments for the Noachides. So they're different. I used to think that the 7 came from the 10, but they say in the Zohar that you need all 620 to make everything complete. You need the Jews doing their 613, and you need the rest of the world doing the other 7. And that makes the crown complete. When the king puts on a complete crown, he's king of everybody. He's king of the world. And he can't be king in your life or anybody else's life until you allow him to be king. And to allow him to be king, that means you have to just do what he says to do without understanding anything. Just do it. Because that's what a king wants from you when he gives you an order, when he says to do something. Later, you can find out why. What is his thinking? Although we'll never know God's thinking. But and we do have some people try to tell us they think they know what God's thinking. But the important thing here is just do what he says. You don't criticize it, you don't analyze it, you don't think you'd rather do it another way, and you don't interpret it. And unfortunately, Jews and non-Jews, when you go into some of the other Noahide places, if you don't think a certain way, they block you, they kick you out, they tell you can't post posts. This is the same kind of thing that destroyed many other parts of the world. And I'm just going to say this one thing. I don't like to be negative about anybody, but it's the reason that Christianity has 47,000 denominations. Everybody's got their own idea, and they're going to do it this way, and what everybody else is doing is wrong. I used to drive down a street, I won't mention the town, but it's in Ohio, that for about 2.5 blocks, there's one church after another. On a Sunday morning, you can't even drive through there. And they put guards at the parking lots and said, wait a minute, you're not a member of our congregation, you can't park here. Go to your own congregation and park. And then I'm saying to myself, why does there have to be on both sides of the streets for 2.5 blocks all these churches? Why? And I met with, this is back in the day when I was teaching Christians a lot of stuff, and I had a meeting with about 6 of the local pastors in this town in Ohio. And I said, why don't you guys once a year rent out a stadium just to get everybody together and get everybody unified? 3 of them said the same thing to me. Well, if we do that, there's a chance he's going to join so-and-so's church or go over there to that church, and he won't come to my church. I said, oh, my goodness. Now they own the churches, huh? But then it helped me understand some of the Christian thinking, and that was in my beginning days when I had some really big ideals of what I could do with people. But then I began to understand that this is a way of thinking that was started by the Greeks and the Romans, and it's come through, and it comes from Esau, Edomites, and from Japhet, who was Greece and Italy and those people down there. But it was a way of thinking. Everybody's loved the Torah. The Greeks loved the Torah. Why? It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But what's this invisible thing you're letting control your life? They just couldn't get God in their head. Keep it very physical, but they couldn't get spiritual about it. Now, we all want to be spiritual, and you guys are used to being spiritual. But there's a spirituality there that is right there for you that you don't. If you go today or tomorrow or the next day, and you just don't do to somebody else what you don't want done to yourself, that's spiritual already. You get angry at somebody, and you don't get angry. You've already gone up a level in your spirituality. You've become closer to God by doing this thing. Somebody gets mad, you get mad at somebody at work. Somebody dumps on you at work and improperly. Okay, so he did it. So you don't, no paybacks, none of this kind of stuff. There's all kinds of things you can do. And when you do it, you have that direct spiritual connection to God. Every little thing you do every day is that way. As long as you remember you're doing it for him. You have a direct, you do have a direct connection to God every single day. Every time you wake up, you got it. Whether you use it or not is up to you.
Right.
Veronica or Troy or Thomas, you got any other questions?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Lately, I've had some of my Christian and Messianic friends getting worried that I'm going to get my head chopped off for being listening to the 7 laws, Noachide laws. And I was like, no. I said, what you're doing is you're watching these Christian and Messianic things, the videos. They're trying to deter everything. I don't know where to send them what to watch properly, or because they're hounding me.
Okay, what are they saying, that the Jews are going to cut your head off because you're following not doing right, or what?
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
I think even in the laws of courts, it talks about being liable for death and beheading and stuff, even by Gentiles. And what they're doing is they're twisting. They don't have the Torah understanding of what liable means.
Well, but they don't have everyday understanding of what it means.
Right.
Yeah, but
Well,
that's
I sent the video to Terry.
well,
to
that's
check
fine. But
one of them.
all you have to do is ask them a question, or put a fact in front of them. How many criminal acts in America do you have that you're liable for death for? Probably don't even know. There's so many. When was the last time somebody was put to death for one of those things? And when someone goes on trial, inadvertent, what do they call it? Homicide, negligent homicide,
Manslaughter.
manslaughter. Nobody ever gets the death penalty anymore. When was the last time you saw that so-and-so was convicted and he got the death penalty? They don't understand in a system of courts and laws. It says in the laws of the United States of America, and probably every country, if you do X, you get killed. You're the death penalty. If you do Y, it's a death penalty. But that's the worst that can possibly happen. It's not what's going to happen. You have to go through courts. You have to go through a system. That's why, if you look at the last Noahide commandment, set up a system of judges and courts.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot find in our history, the last person that was sentenced to death in our courts here in Israel, and probably for the last, including before, probably the last 3,500, no, not 3,500, the last 2,500 years, 2,500 years. The last person that got the death penalty was about 25 years ago, Adolf Eichmann, the guy that killed all those Jews, and he's the only one that's got the death penalty in all those years. If you look him up, Adolf Eichmann, he was one of the architects of the slaughter of the Jews during World War II. And he hid out in Argentina for years, and they finally tracked him down, kidnapped him, brought him back to Israel, and put him on trial. If somebody thinks that the death penalty is just, let's throw it out there and let's just do it. Oh, did wrong, whack, whack, did wrong, another head, whack, whack. That's the way the Muslims do it. That's not the way God wants it done. It's not the way God wants it done. And if someone breaks a commandment that's liable by death, he can't be prosecuted unless he was warned at least one time. He did it and then he got warned. If he did it the second time, they're going to say, we were warned the first time. And if two witnesses can come and say, yeah, he was warned the first time, so the second time he just says, okay, we're giving you a final warning now, don't do it again. Then he does it a third time. Everybody says he's guilty. Man did it again. He broke the commandment. Well, I don't know what we're going to do with him. And all the judges vote, yeah, let's do the death penalty. It's a unanimous decision. Do you know that the man is set free? There cannot be a unanimous decision for the death penalty in an Israeli court, in a Jewish court, in the Torah court. Because God said every single person is created with good inside. If nobody took the trouble to try to find the good that was in that man that broke the commandments, he's not at fault, you are.
Oh, wow.
Every single person that God created has something good in them. It may be hidden, but it's there because when he created man, he said it is good. He didn't say, well, but this one's good, but the next one's going to be evil.
You know, Thomas, they're spending a lot of time looking at the penalties that's listed probably within our laws, but they've not taken time to study our laws. What do they have against? Not murder, not weird sexual acts. And I mean, you don't hear any of them discussing the 7 laws themselves. They want to jump to the penalty stage for breaking them.
Well, but there's one other thing, Terry. It says in there about the studying of the Torah and the studies and the doing this and doing that. They're a penalty for death.
It is for that, for the things that's outside the 7 laws. There is no restriction for a Noachide in their study of the 7 laws and their details. You can go as deep as you want. If you want to, you're not required to. It's not an obligation. But if you're someone like myself who's interested, I can study the 7 laws as deep as I want to go. But if I want to go study Teflon or Shabbat laws, then I'm crossing the line.
Okay, that's true. There's no reason for you to study the Shabbat laws, but there is a lot of things that people want to study, and they're interested in studying it. They're interested in learning how decisions are made. The problem is if you study it from the intellectual standpoint of wanting to learn it, you can quote what's on a piece of paper, but you haven't learned anything.
Right.
You're doing it for your own self. Oh, I read this. I know this. I can talk about this. You're not doing it to the glory of God. Because if you were doing things for the glory of God, you'd be working on the 7, fixing yourself and making yourself a good human being, that divine human being, so that you can help other people.
Yeah, that's what I wrote about, a divine humanity. That's what
I know. That's why I used the word, Terry. That's exactly why I used the word. It's important that we understand all of us, every human being, that we're not supposed to get all trapped up in the little nitty picky stuff, especially if it doesn't pertain to our lives. Because what do? We start judging. And when we judge, we get into a critical thinking. And I know I've said it 100 times. I must have said it maybe every week. We judge people from the minute we walk out of the house in the morning. We look around the neighbor, oh, that neighbor didn't cut his grass. Bad guy. Oh, that one didn't wash his car. Whoops, he's wearing goofy clothes. I wouldn't wear those clothes. And you get in your car and you're driving along, and everything you look at, you're judging. You're judging everything. And what happens is, especially if you go to work the same way every day, by looking out the windshield with a critical eye, one day you're driving along and you look over on the, hey, where'd that building come from? You've been driving the same route for 3 years. All of a sudden there's a new building there. It's because you were looking at such things so critically, you took for granted everything else and didn't bother to really see what was going on around you. I love when new people used to come to visit me in Haifa on the beach, or they come here to Sfat and they walk out on my street and they look at the Sea of Galilee and the Golan Heights and the whole, and they just, they're just loving it. Now I could walk out of my house every single morning and go down to my car and not look up and not look at that view and just take it for granted. But I look at it every day to remind me I can't take anything for granted. But we all do that. We all go, look, you get in a car today, you start it up and you got in your head, you're going to go somewhere. The car gets there. You're not even watching where you're going, essentially. You're thinking about other things. You're listening to music. And the car gets there basically automatically. And while you're driving along, you're doing all this critical thinking. Maybe you're thinking about somebody at work that you got to, critically or something. Wrong way of thinking. God doesn't look at us that way. God wants something from every human being, aside from don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself. There's one more thing he wants from every single one of us every day. Doesn't make any difference who you are, whether you're a king, a pauper, whether you're a Jew or a Muslim or a Christian or whatever he wants. He wants you to be a better person that day than you were yesterday. He wants you to make progress towards your relationship with him each day. Even a little baby step is good. But if you're in the same spot today that you were yesterday, you're dead. You haven't lived. You're not going anywhere. You might as well walk over and dig your own grave and fall into it. Every single day, conscious living. Do something a little bit better each day. The way you handle somebody, the way you talk to somebody. Treating people kindly even comes down to, we all have caller ID today on our phones. That pest is calling me again. I'm not going to answer. You know you're lying to that person by not answering the phone. Now that's kind of a strict way of looking at it, but that's a lie. Or someone calls you up and they need help, and again he's calling me up for this. No, I'm busy, can't do it now. I'm sorry. Maybe tomorrow I can help you out. I'm sorry I can't help you today, and hang up. Now, what do you do in a case like that? I tell people the truth. I'm in the middle of a teaching. I'm doing preparing information for a video I have to make. I don't have time now, but if we can do it later, we can do it. Unless it's an actual emergency, then I put everything down and I go help. And there's ways you can do everything and be truthful about everything, up to a point. Okay, there are times when you can't be truthful. There are times when someone says, hey, how am I looking this morning? Does this shirt make me look too fat? There are times you say, hey, you look pretty good or something like that. You don't have to get that nitpicky on somebody because you don't want to make them feel bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes people ask you questions, it's a little hard to answer back and still be truthful, but you don't want to hurt their feelings, and especially don't want to embarrass people in front of other people. If you want to say something to somebody, don't do it in front of other people. Embarrassment is I guess it would fall under, actually don't murder, I think is where I got it. I have a whole thing I did on it. But
it falls under personal, I think it's personal injuries. Hold on, I've got it right here. Or it's covered in the divine code.
Yeah.
I think it's under, let me look at the table of contents. I think it's personal injury, but I think you're right. Yeah, murder and injury.
Yeah, that's what I was right about. So you might not think that when you embarrass somebody in public that you're murdering them, but you are.
Yeah, the prohibitions of embarrassing another person, evil gossip, and tale-bearing falls underneath murder and injury.
Yeah. Think about how you feel when you get embarrassed. Somebody embarrasses you in public. Wow, that's a terrible feeling. Why would you, even on something small, why would you? But sometimes you do it on accident. You say something to somebody, it embarrasses them, and you didn't realize it was going to embarrass them. And if that happens to me, I immediately apologize to somebody. Immediately, for making them feel uncomfortable. When someone says, look, you said, I'm angry, you said such and such to me, and I'm really angry about it, and I'll say to them, and it even could have been a personal conversation. If I'm reminding him something that is truth, I'll say to him, gee, I'm really sorry I made you feel that way, but it's just, I don't apologize for what he said, as long as we're in private, not in front of other people, but I apologize for making someone feel bad. I don't care what I did, right or wrong. It's never an excuse for making somebody feel bad. So we're getting kind of long here, about a half hour longer than we intended, but it's so simple. This goes with the holidays too. You want to do a holiday, you want to do a specific thing, but you know what? Every country has 4 or 5 holidays that are okay to do every year. The first holiday was a national holiday in America. It's the greatest holiday of all. Thanksgiving. Let's give thanks to God for what He gave us. What a wonderful day that is. Independence Day, Memorial Day, Veterans Day. These are all holidays that should be celebrated with vigor because they're part of your country and they're part of the people that set the country up and they're part of the people that God guided to even make the country. And when you celebrate those holidays, you're celebrating God. You're celebrating the Creator. You celebrate some other religion's holidays that were set up for the religion, you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need that stuff. Oh, but it made me feel good. It was a good family time. Okay, but it's over with. It's just, we know that the Creator doesn't want me, I know the Creator doesn't want me to do it, so I'm not going to do it. When Jews come here from America and they immigrate, the first year they're here, first question in November, when's Thanksgiving? When's Thanksgiving? Everybody looks at, what's Thanksgiving? What are you talking about Thanksgiving? Oh, yeah, we haven't done that in 20 years. Here in Israel, we got other holidays. We don't need the American Thanksgiving. With the American Thanksgiving, it's a great holiday to celebrate Hashem. Why did the people come there in the first place? Religious freedom. To be able to worship Hashem. And that's why they came. It used to be, in God we trust on the money. The Rebbe said, the Frediker Rebbe said, this is one of the greatest countries I've ever come to. It even declares God on its dollar bill. Think about that. You guys live in a wonderful, great country, and it has the holidays that should be celebrated. Memorial Day isn't a day for cookouts. Memorial Day is a day to remember the people that fell in honor of the country. Veterans Day is a day to memorialize and to invite a veteran into your home or help them out or do something with them. They fought for the freedom that you have right now. 4th of July, independence for the United States of America. When you start thinking of those holidays in those terms, they're great holidays to celebrate. And you can celebrate them in a way that relates to Hashem, your creator, because he's behind every one of them. And that's a nation. I'm not going to celebrate 4th of July here in Israel. I'm not going to celebrate Thanksgiving here in Israel. I'm not going to celebrate USA Memorial Day in Israel. I'm not going to celebrate Veterans Day in Israel. Because it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to America. But guess what? We have our own Memorial Day, our own Veterans Day, our own Passover, our own Shavuot. We have our own holidays here in this country. They belong to a country, it's not a religion. They're country holidays, and the people that live in the country. The only holiday I know of in all of Torah that said that everybody in the world is going to celebrate is Sukkot, the Festival of Booths. Because God said, everyone will come up to me, all nations will come up to me once a year and bring me their offerings. And when you read about it in the Torah, you find that Israel has been making the repentance offerings for these countries since we started doing Sukkot. We do the sacrifices for the whole world every year at that time of year. Hanukkah is we don't celebrate military wins, and we wouldn't be even talking about Hanukkah if God hadn't done a miracle for the temple with that little thing of oil. I don't know if you guys know the whole story. We can talk about it later on, but that's little thing of oil was from hundreds of years earlier, from a different time that appeared. It's not a spiritual holiday. It's a, hey, we won, let's eat holiday. God did a miracle, let's eat holiday. That's all it is. And it's Passover, we're celebrating the miracles God did, not the beating of the Egyptians, the miracles he did for us in those days and at those times. Because he freed us from the slavery in Egypt and brought us out of Egypt. That if you go down the list of holidays, there's some very specific, but if you go down the list of holidays in the country you live, there's very specific holidays for that country. I mean, I can't imagine people not wanting to put flags on the grave of every dead soldier in America. And people today, they get court orders, you can't put flags up and stuff like that. I mean, what kind of idiocy is that? Veterans Day. There's always a veteran. You can find a veteran to invite into your home or to do something special for a group of them or something like that. This is what God wants. He doesn't care what they believe, those veterans. He wants you to be kind to people. There's a church where they go to fallen warriors' funerals and make problems for the family and everything. I was appalled by that. What God do they worship? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is just leave there's spirituality in everything you do when you're doing it connected to Hashem. Everything, even when you eat. If you eat a meal and go out and do something good for somebody, you've elevated everything up to Hashem. You've made it holy. You've done something good. Because it's you and your connection to Hashem. But it's the same thing with the Jews. If a Jew eats just to fill himself up, what he eats doesn't do nothing for nobody except make him bigger. But if he eats and goes out and does something good and works for Hashem, then he's also elevated it. Everybody elevates everything in the same way, just by simply doing what Hashem wants that person to do without saying, oh, I heard you wanted him to do it, so I'm going to volunteer to do it because I know you're going to really like me if I volunteer to do it. That's not quite the way it works. Okay, I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings or something, but
I think, again, another awesome class. I mean, it's given me a lot of food for thought. It's reassured some of the thoughts I've already had, maybe put it in a little bit of different perspective to help clarify some things. But it's been very good.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thomas and Veronica, let's try to remember next week. If you know
changed
anybody,
my calendar, so I'm good.
if you know anybody that was going to come but they didn't, like I was expecting somebody to show up and he didn't. I
think Marinella said she was out and couldn't get it to work on a phone or something.
Yeah. And there was someone I knew who was supposed to join us, but I will get a hold of him now and see what's going on with him so he can join us next week.
Well, every person that's come at me and told me about me losing my head and why I'm doing the 7 laws, I told them about this. And none of them showed up, I bet.
Well, the one thing as far as that goes too is you've got to join because we got it closed. We got the group closed for privacy for the members. You have to join the group to be able to get to this. But you're free to share the Zoom link. If you've got somebody, if it's okay with FaceTime, if you've got somebody you want to invite, all you got to do is copy and paste the Zoom link and send it to them in a message, and they'll have it. If it's okay with FaceTime.
Yeah, no, it's okay with me. They can find it on if they go to my Facebook page and look down, they'll find the Zoom link.
Yeah.
It's okay, but we don't want them in the group if they're just going to come in and cause debate and problems. Right. And we're here to get.
That would be the better thing to do, Thomas, is if you've got some people that you would like to us to be able to answer their questions, just feel free to share the Zoom link to their message. Just copy and paste it.
Right. I know that it seems like me, the Christians, that's one of their laws. We have to debate.
No, we don't debate. At least I don't.
Not us, Christians.
No, I won't debate. Debate's real simple. You're going to have a winner or loser, and when you're talking to somebody, they aren't listening to you. They're trying to frame their answer to fire back at you. So what's the point of talking?
It's like the place you were talking about in Ohio sounded like Dayton.
No, it was on the other side of the state from there.
That's I'm a Buckeye, so
it was. I will say this: it was on the eastern side of Cleveland.
Oh, I grew up in Huron County.
Yeah.
Yep.
My daughter lives in Paynesville right now.
Oh, well, my area is Wakeman, but oh shoot, I can't remember the name of the city where the drag strip is. Norwalk.
Norwalk. Yeah, never made it there. Too busy doing other things. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming. Ladies, thanks for coming. Veronica.
I'll be your time.
And see you next week. Same place.
Absolutely.
All right. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.